Check podcasts.
It seems like everybody's working on their home right now. Whether they're doing a new build or a renovation, interior designers, contractors, and all of the trades really have to band together to create the product that they want. One of the trades that I work with all of the time is Mark. Mark does tile install. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited to talk about, well, everything tile.
Hi, Amy. Thanks for having me.
So for the viewers out there, just a little introduction. You and I have worked on a lot of projects together over the last couple of years, whether it's an intricate shower pan or a beautiful tile backsplash. How did you get into the industry though? Because I can't imagine that you had the dream to work with tile when you were just a boy of 10.
Yeah, it was... It's been a bit of a long road for sure. I've been doing it for a long time. It took a lot of different trades working through a lot of different trades to get to kind of settling on the trade like tile that I've been able to work through and kind of climb the ladder and master, I guess you could say. But so some people say, but yeah. I just started out at the bottom and worked really hard for the last 15 years, and we like to think we're one of the best, installer companies that are in the city, and we try to just bring our best our best foot forward every time. So.
Well, and that is one of the reasons that I enjoy working with you so much, is because you're very meticulous, you're very detail and attention oriented, and that is so important when it comes to tile install, because it's not exactly easy to backtrack and fix things.
No, it's one of those trades it's easy to, it's a common homeowner trade that if someone wants to tackle it, they can, but to really perfect it and do a good job through and through from start to finish that's the challenging part, and finding all the little details that make a job complete. So
you're right. I think obviously painting is probably one of the things that homeowners tackle themselves. But then I feel when people want to get a little bit crazy and skilled and tackle the next step up, tile seems to be one of the things. And myself included, I thought once that I could install a backsplash, and it didn't go well.
Well, it's such a finite practice that those edges of those tiles, if you make one mistake, you can it can really go sideways from there. And I've heard a lot of different stories about things starting off okay and then them not ending so great. And that's I've had a few calls where we come in to help people after they've tried to get things going, but yeah, it's just a lot of focus and attention and hard work, and then you can get through it. So.
Well, I met you through one of the contractors that I work with all the time, Unity Construction. And I think you guys started working together on a cruise ship, didn't you? That's kind of interesting and not every day.
Yeah, it's not every day you're down in the Bahamas or somewhere over in Europe on a cruise ship in a dry dock. There's been a lot of different opportunities, in particular with that company that I did work for, and where I met Steve. So yeah, we were working in different spaces and doing restaurants and pool decks and all sorts of spots that are very commonly used where tile's commonly used. Yeah.
Well, you're kind of making the job sound somewhat glamorous right now.
Yeah, the names of the places sound great, but then once you're in a dry dock, the scene tends to change a bit. But
so you said that you've worked in quite a few different trades along the way. I'm a firm believer that everybody's path just adds to their resume and their portfolio of experiences, essentially. What were some of the things that you pulled from that have really helped you now?
Well, I guess if you're gonna look way back, it started as a carpenter's helper, and then I went with a roofing company, and then I've been in the oil field as well, away from the homeowner stuff, but you still learn a lot in that type of work environment. And then so some of the things that I've drawn from those experiences have just been good work ethic and kind of functional step-by-step processes, and then those have really helped me to plan my tile jobs and start from the beginning, and make sure that we finish at a good finished product. So.
And I think that's important because I feel like you do very much appreciate the other trades and what they have to get done as well, because you're so flexible with timelines. Well, with me anyways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Timelines when things kind of, when the pressure gets on and everybody just sort of works together and pitches in. And
yeah, absolutely. You need to be able to work with other people, and everyone's in the same space for one thing. And then if we're not able, and oftentimes you're repeating and seeing people a few weeks down the road or something. So you want to make sure that you're in good communication and just working together to make sure we get a project done. So.
You guys are super busy. Do you just
Absolutely.
have sort of your clients that you work with all the time, whether it's contractors, designers, that sort of thing, and that's enough to keep you busy? Or do you find that you're always sort of looking at different things?
Yeah, well, the repeat clients, the contractors and designers and things, those have kept me busy for a few years, obviously steady. And we're starting to work with a few other tile setters in order to kind of try to expand our operations and be able to reach out to those other folks that we weren't necessarily initially working for. We're hoping to be able to expand that and be able to help anyone who needs our help. So,
and I think that's a big thing in the industry right now, is trying to find great, reliable, skilled people to work with them, and also just all of the delays and the demands, and try and navigate all of that right now.
No, absolutely. It's it's tough out there to find, especially after the pandemic and everything, right? To find anyone capable and willing to work has always been challenging, but even now more so. But luckily there are a good handful of guys, and that's one thing I'm grateful through my years of, whether it's been in work or trades or playing sports or whatever, and especially in Victoria, it's such it's a small, big city kind of thing, and everyone kind of, you're likely to know someone who knows someone that and so through all that, through those connections, we're able to kind of find the team members that you need to be able to get a project done. So,
Mark, one thing that I love to follow are what people are doing in the trends and such, and what everyone else is doing, because I know what I like, and my tastes change so much, and so do my clients. What are you seeing a lot of in tile right now?
Well, we're really starting to see things expand from a smaller format tile, and they're getting up to that large format stuff where people are seeing less grout lines. With that said, people always they love their traditional roots, like subway tiles, for example, and things we don't see as often are mosaic accent pieces and things like this. We see a lot more just clean, crisp installations that are trying to minimalize that drawing of a grout line or something, for example. So.
Well, you mentioned large and small format tiles. I think this has actually changed quite a bit over the last 5 years too, because what was a large format tile, like 12 by 24, is now not considered large. Myself included, I like to go more to a 24 by 48, just for that very reason that you stated, is less grout lines, easier to keep clean, there's not as much staining and such.
Yeah, absolutely. The 12 by 24, you'll still see it. It's still used, of course, but if people have the means to go that larger route, I think they'll go that way these days. It's just a lot more common, I think, is what I'm seeing it a lot more anyway.
And how does that complicate things? Is it much more difficult to install a 24 by 48 tile?
It presents its challenges. If it's an open space or something, the large format tends to go in pretty well. Of course, if you're jogging around corners in a real intricate area, you're going to have some trickier cuts and things like that to be making. But for the most part, if you're doing a larger install and it's in a pretty open area, it's definitely encouraged to. It's encouraging for us as installers to be using a product like that. So.
I feel like you guys were cursing my name though when I did the large format tiles on the wall in my shower, and then you had to cut around the wall cubbies.
There's a few real challenge. That's just part of the challenge that comes every day with being a tile setter, and when you're working with top end designers that want to push your skills put your skills to the test. We're coming into problems like that all the time. So,
did you just call me a top end designer?
Of course, Amy, you're one of the best in the city for sure.
Thank you. One of the other things you mentioned was the mosaic tile, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think maybe some people shy away from it or can't use as much of it as they would like to because cost prohibited, and also I think is there more labor involved with that, or?
It presents its challenges as well, right? If you're doing a full area in it, mosaic can be challenging in terms of, you can really see it wave and move when you're doing a larger area. So prep work is the key, but they do complement tiles nicely. So to say my previous point, to say that they're not used at all is not quite true. But in the right context, in the right space, they're a nice accent piece to any bathroom or any room that you're trying to complement. So
that's very true. And lots of times we'll try in the back of the shower niche to put a mosaic or something that's a little bit more expensive where it makes a big impact, but you don't need a lot of it.
Yeah, no, and those are encouraged. I like that actually, because it does provide something a little more exciting that might draw your eye toward that and say, oh, that's a nice compliment to everything else that's happening in the room. So while not taking away from the major space, the big installation that you've been working on or trying to create. So.
Some of the other trends that I'm seeing are clients wanting to do things that are a little bit more custom or fancy, whether that be a shower bench or maybe in-floor heating, to really bring in some of those luxuries into the bathroom space. Oh
yeah, for sure. I mean, the bench seats are always nice. If you've got enough room in your shower to be able to put a bench in, that's always nice. And for safety too, if your mobility is an issue or something like that, it's nice to have that kind of option in case you're in a shower. Of course, it's a wet area, so there's always a risk involved when you're in a small area, in a wet area like that. And then in-floor heating, that's just that's a nice luxury to have. If you're able to wake up and you warm up your toes while you're brushing your teeth, is always a bonus. So
yes, although the shock of the cold floor might actually wake you up a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We've talked a lot about bathrooms, but you do a lot of work in kitchens as well with backsplashes and that sort of thing. What are some other areas that you've been doing tile work in?
Pretty much seasonally speaking, we tend to get outside a little bit and do patios and landings and staircases and things of houses. But, we're always, any surface that needs a nice clean finish is common, but we fireplaces, for example, are one. People love having a nice fireplace done. Right. Yeah. It's backsplashes, any space that people want that finished touch where they don't want to paint it or use a wood finish of some kind. Tile is always a nice option. So.
And there's so many tiles now that have a wood look finish or those sorts of things when the room or the space is going to have a lot of moisture and be wet.
Yeah, absolutely. We recently have completed a phase 1 of a hotel in the city, and we used a wood finished plank style tile, and we installed that on a herringbone pattern. So it's kind of added a different, totally different effect to the floor. And rather than running it to make it look like hardwood flooring, we installed it with that kind of design aspect in mind, and it really cleaned it up nice. And that was it for a restaurant. It's a nice product to have down for cleanliness and maintenance wise and everything. It's an excellent choice. So.
Well, and you kind of touched too on the prep work involved with tile. And I think maybe this is where, like myself included, a lot of DIYers go wrong because they just jump right in and start on the work. But I mean, you can spend days on just the prep alone before you lay a tile.
Oh, absolutely. Prep is your number one. If it all starts with what's underneath the tile, and you want to make sure you have a good foundation and a good base to be able to really have that project move forward in the right direction. And that way, that once, as the project's finishing and you're beyond the stage of reparation, and you want to move it forward and know that it's going to last for a long time, you want to make sure that your prep work and what's underneath is really being installed correctly. So
that's true. And whether it's a moisture barrier or concrete board, so that you have enough backing for that tile, because there's weight involved and such. Yeah. It's really something that you have to think through and talk to you about.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, touches base from me to the framers and the builders and structural people, that, you want to make sure that once you're coming in a bathroom with 250 square feet in it, you want to make sure that everything is sound and structurally good to go before you're covering it all up, essentially.
And I mean, there's the fun part of choosing the tile that you want, whether it's the pattern, color, that sort of thing. But there's a lot of other pieces that need to be chosen as well, which we try to do with our clients, like grout color, schluter, all of those, drains. What are Absolutely. Some of the things that you would recommend for those?
Well, whenever you're picking your finishes, and that starts with, obviously it's going to start with your tile. What do you want to look at? What does your eye want to be looking at? But all those little finishes are so critical to being able to tie the entire room together. You want to, if you're using a shower trim, a valve or anything that's a chrome, you might want to be matching that up elsewhere. Chrome is a little, it pops a little more than the rest of them, but that's just an example of what you might want to be trying to match up with. Same with your drain grates and things like that. And in terms of drains, I mean, of course, there's all different styles of drains. A more traditional might have been a square drain, but these days they're doing a lot more linear work and trying to get that really clean, seamless shower entries and all sorts of things like that. They all come into play. So.
Well, and I think I drive you crazy because I hate schluter, which is the metal edge on the tile that finishes it off. Because most days or most times now, the tile isn't finished right through, or it doesn't have a nice soft edge on it. So we have to have something butting up against that to finish it off. But I hate the look of it. So I'm always just like, make it disappear. I don't want to see it.
Yeah, well, if it's one of those things where it's just too much for any project, you could look at mitering and trying to get that real clean, squared off finish. That's an option for finishing an edge. But the way the products are rolling out these days, they have a lot of different possibilities for your finishes. So I mean, I just got the new updated, for example, schluter book, and they've got all sorts of new stuff that's kind of exciting, and it's going to lead toward new design trends for the next few years. So it's going to be fun.
Oh, I love it! I can't wait to hear all about that.
Absolutely.
But I think the key is really planning ahead of time and talking to your installer so that expectation is set from the get-go as to what the finished product is going to look like.
Absolutely, and from a homeowner's perspective or any client's perspective, you want to make sure you're understanding what's happening from the beginning in terms of underneath. You don't necessarily need to know exactly what everyone's doing or what they're planning, but you want to make sure that how they're doing it is the proper way, and that the products underneath and everything is being built from the ground up properly, right straight to the finish.
One of the questions a lot of clients ask me is about grout color, because it's kind of a trend right now to do a contrasting grout, say a white subway tile with a dark gray, that sort of thing. A lot of people ask me, like, with white, does it stain easier? Does it show everything? With dark, does it stain, show everything? What would you answer for those?
Well, I've seen it stain both ways. A lot of times people might mistake the staining as sometimes it just needs a good cleaning before they can assume it's being stained. A lot of the products these days that we use have built-in sealers, and And then there's always the step above products if you really want to make sure that those grouts and things aren't going to be, you're going to have a little less maintenance if you want to take that next step above. There's a grout called a CQ, which is quartz infused, and that's kind of the next step below an epoxy. And epoxy obviously is your bomb-proof, really high-end commercial grade product. But in general, homeowner for homes and businesses, things like that, the common trend is it's got a sealer already built in. It's called an Ultracolor FA, and so as long as they're being installed correctly, the products these days that they have out there are pretty sufficient for a job that's going to move forward.
So just keep it clean, and
just try to keep it clean. That's right. Cleanliness is the key after just to maintain it, right? So.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Mark, and sharing the trends and tips and all of that involving tile install.
Yeah, of course. No problem. Thanks for having me, Amy.